On today's episode, we talk about the coronavirus, and then we talk with 7-time world champion Lindsay Webster. Welcome to the OCR Report podcast, brought to you by the OCRReport.com. We are the only podcast to focus exclusively on the elite sport of obstacle course racing, from Spartan to Tough Mudder to the OCR World Championships, and wherever the elites are racing, we are there. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the OCR Report. Welcome back to the OCR Report. Thank you for listening. My name is Will Hicks, and I'm glad you're here. I'm recording this on Thursday, March 12th, and it's kind of a crazy day in the non-OCR world. As I'm recording this, it's kind of in the midst of the coronavirus thing happening, and the U.S. stock market is blowing up. And last night, within 30 minutes, the NBA season was suspended. The U.S. banned all travel from Europe into the U.S. for 30 days. Tom Hanks and his wife announced that they had coronavirus. And Sarah Palin was unmasked on The Masked Singer. So that 30 minutes was like a stressful year. So before we get into talking about coronavirus and what it means for us in OCR, I want to encourage you to follow us on Instagram at the OCR Report, on Facebook and Twitter, also if you would like, and to listen to our other shows, Obstacle Running Adventures, Overcome and Run, and OCR Talk, for more on what's going on in the OCR industry right now. Let's mix it up a little bit this week, and let's start the show with some iTunes reviews.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars.
First review comes from Quaidar Aru. Post Jax 2020. 5 stars. Great updates on OCR HAPS. Relevant interviews with Spartan Podium elite athletes. Helpful tips and tricks for all ability levels. Thanks, Will et al. Thank you, Quaidar Aru. Quaidar Aru. Appreciate the review. Thank you for the kind words. Relevant interviews. I hope so. I would never want to have an interview and then be like, hey, let's talk about something besides OCR. Unless we do. Like on World Championship podcast, I interviewed a expert on McDonald's pizza once. And I felt that was relevant because a lot of people use pizza as a fueling strategy when they're doing 24-hour races. So it's very interesting. You can find that out in the World Championship podcast archives. But thank you for the kind words, Quaidar Aru. If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Quaidar, you can leave a review also. Open the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone or iOS device. Search for the OCR Report. Click our logo and then scroll down to click Write a Review. And I will read it on a future episode. Let's talk some news. Let's talk about coronavirus. You may be tired of hearing about it, and I would not bring it up if it did not relate directly to OCR. We're going to talk with Lindsay Webster in a few minutes about her win at the first race in the Spartan US National Series in Jacksonville. The second race in that series is scheduled for April 4th in Seattle. Actually just outside Seattle in Snohomish County. Yesterday, the governor of Washington, Jay Inslee, made this announcement.
Starting today, I am ordering pursuant to my emergency powers that certain events in King, Snohomish, and Pierce County with more than 250 people are prohibited by order of the governor.
And again, that is the governor of Washington, where the next race is scheduled to be held just a few weeks from now on April 4th. So the governor of Washington said that yesterday. Then today, the governor of California made this announcement.
We have directed cities, counties, private, public sector, large and small, all throughout the state of California, to no longer permit large, non-essential events in this state, sporting events, other types of conferences, music festivals, and the like.
According to the state of California, the San Luis Obispo Spartan race this weekend is not an essential event. So it will not be held. And then, while I was prepping this episode, the state of New York announced no gatherings larger than 500 people. So California's announced no larger than 250. Washington said no groups larger than 250. New York said 500. Excuse me. I would expect more of these types of announcements in the next few days. We are living in crazy times, people. You're going to tell your kids about this when you're older. So what does that mean for races in those states? It probably means, at least until those bans on gathering are lifted, no Spartan and no Tough Mudder in those states until further notice, at least in California and Washington and New York, because all of those races have thousands of runners, much more than that limit of 250 people. It's too bad that Battle Frog isn't around anymore, right? I think they'd be okay. Spartan has officially announced that this weekend's race in San Luis Obispo is postponed to a future unknown date. Here's the release from Spartan. Spartans, as we actively monitor the developments of COVID-19 and comply with local governments, we regret to inform you that after consulting with the County of San Luis Obispo Public Health Department, they have determined that it is necessary to postpone this weekend's event scheduled to take place at Santa Margarita Ranch. We will inform you of the new date by Friday. We are automatically moving all racers to the new date. Once confirmed, no further action will be required. If you are unable to attend the new date, you will have 60 days until May 13th, 2020 to defer your event free of charge. You will be able to defer to any other distance event in the U.S. in 2020 or 2021 that is open for registration. Should you need to defer your event, we will provide information in the next email communication. And that is straight from Spartan HQ. Here is a list of canceled or postponed races from Spartan, both in the U.S. and internationally. These were put together by the good guys on Reddit. March 13th, 14th, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia has been canceled. March 14th, 15th, San Luis Obispo is postponed. March 21, Paris, France is postponed. March 27th, Al Ain Zoo in Abu Dhabi is canceled. March 28th in Majora, Italy, postponed until October 24th. March 28th, 29th, Okinawa, Japan is postponed to an unknown date. April 4th and 5th in Veszprém, Hungary, postponed to an unknown date. April 11th, the Stadion race in South Korea, postponed until November 7th. And April 17th and 18th, Munich, Germany, is postponed to October 30th, 31st. Some of those early postponed ones, if I didn't give you a date for it, it's postponed to an unknown date. They have not announced it yet. Savage Race has also made an announcement regarding this weekend and upcoming events.
This is Sam Abbott, CEO and co-founder of Savage Race. Today I'm bringing some really hard news. Savage Race is postponing its Florida event this weekend and our event in Georgia, March 28th, and our event in Central Texas on April 11th. All those events are set to occur within the next 30 days.
Savage will have more information coming out. Follow them on Twitter or Instagram for more information. As far as Tough Mudder goes, the first event of the Tough Mudder calendar isn't until May 30th in Virginia. So, as we're talking, it's the beginning of March. I'm sure Tough Mudder will make some kind of announcement as needed as that May 30th date gets closer. In the non-OCR world, the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball have all announced that they are suspending or delaying their seasons. Football is in the off season. They've said that they're going to start on schedule when they come back later this year. But I wouldn't. So as far as baseball, hockey, basketball, suspended or delayed, if this continues as it's going right now, I would not be surprised. Don't be surprised if Spartan and Tough Mudder are forced to make that same decision of just, you know what, we're going to have to wait, and then we'll come back when we can come back. And I know we're all aroo, but this has clearly become a serious thing. Stay away from crowds. Wash your hands frequently. Just be smart. Do not fall for any miracle cure scams either.
Well, let's say it hasn't been tested on this strain of the coronavirus, but it's been tested on other strains of the coronavirus and has been able to eliminate it within 12 hours.
Yeah.
Totally eliminate it, kills it, and deactivates it.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's so good.
That's so good.
I had a whole bit written for this because that's so good. Clip is pretty good.
That's so good.
But it's just not the mood for it, right? Like, I've got a whole David Spade thing. Like, people are trying to make hand sanitizer out of vodka. Maybe I'll play it in another episode, but hey, Lindsay, 1 minute warning. It feels like a waste to waste this.
That's so good.
But it's not the episode for it. So just wash your hands, people. Stay away from large groups. Be safe. How's the episode so far?
That's so good.
All right, that's all I'm doing. Enough about coronavirus. Let's talk Spartan Race Jacksonville. Lindsay Webster won that race a couple weeks ago. She is a 2-time Spartan World Champion, a 5-time OCRWC World Champion, and has won the Spartan Race US National Series every single year since its inception in 2016. She has more wins than I can cover in this brief intro and is the most decorated woman in the short history of obstacle course racing. I am proud to welcome Lindsay Webster back to the show. It's time to talk with Lindsay Webster. Let's go to the phones.
Hello.
Hello, Lindsay Webster. How are you?
I'm good. I liked my legitimate 1 minute warning.
You're very kind. Yeah, I like to give a heads up there.
Yeah, perfect.
Hey,
actually, because I was in the middle of eating like a giant mouthful of food. So quick swallow that peanut butter and jelly and a quick sip of water and good to go. Exactly.
You finished first place at the first Spartan US National Series race a couple weeks ago in Jacksonville. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Had a good day.
We were going to talk or try to talk right afterwards, but you said you were pretty tied up with a lot of media requests. Tell me about being a superstar there.
Oh, gosh. I think just, it was sort of funny how that all came together at once because maybe it was busy because it's the beginning of the season and like Spartan had an article they wanted me to do. But I actually had a few podcast requests from like non-OCR related podcasts. So I did one with Athlete on Fire. I don't know if you've ever heard of that podcast. And then Fastest Known Time. So yeah, and then I just did one with Matt Davis. So yeah, just sort of like all came together at once. And I was like, maybe I'll get back to Will in about a week or something. Hope that was okay.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. How does that feel? Like you've been an OCR, well-known quantity for years, but now, non-OCR podcasts are recognizing your wins or your dominance and they're reaching out to you for their podcast. How does that feel to kind of, extend outside the sport?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think a lot of them, they're reaching out to me through like my, not fame, but like through obstacle racing, basically. So yeah, it's not for like really things that I've done outside of obstacle racing yet, but I'm trying to build that race resume too. So, yeah, all in good time, right?
It's pretty exciting. Tell me about your race. You got first place. There was a big group of women together for a while, but then you kind of broke out and you got away. What happened? When did you kind of break from the pack?
Actually at the Z-Wall, which was fairly early on in the race, although it was only like a 3-mile race, so everything just felt fairly early on in the race. But I think the Z-Wall was it was still under a mile, and I'm going to say. And I just got a good wall, and I know Nicole, I talked to her after the race, she said that she got like a particularly slippery one, and she almost fell off twice, so she had to like really take her time through it. It's kind of a silly obstacle because if you don't take a certain amount of time on it, then you slip, then you have to do burpees. So it's not necessarily an obstacle that anybody like struggles with particularly. But even though she's like a world-class rock climber, there's such thing as good and bad walls. So she got a bad one, I got a really good one, and so I just came out of that with a little bit of a lead.
Once you had that lead, you pretty much never saw anyone till the finish line again. What's it like running kind of out there by yourself for most of the race?
It was very unexpected, that's for sure. Especially because, I don't know, I don't consider myself to be a good A, flat runner, but B, like 5K fast course runner. I'm better at the longer ones, I think. So, I didn't expect it, but I think, I guess my off-season training's paying off. Like Ryan and I just moved to Quebec. So I think the fact that outside of our doorstep now we have mountains and all these exciting new trails to explore. And I just think when you're excited about your training, and you're like excited to go out every day, you sort of maybe give an extra little bit, and it shows in racing too, I guess. And then on top of that, like a few of the girls were not able to make it to this race who would normally be top contenders, like Rebecca Hammond or Rhea Copel. And then Nicole had been sick and like had injuries and just flu things that she'd been hit with all off season. And so normally she'd be like the competitor that I'd be worried about the most coming into a flat 5K, which actually I still sort of expected her to take the win, but then I think I just had a good day and she kept having little things go wrong, like the Z-Wall, and then she missed her steer. And in a race that short, it sort of almost comes down to like whoever runs the most perfect race is going to win it on the day. So, yeah.
So you're very, very kind and complimentary to your competitors, but and people said you and Ryan are both very humble about your success. But do you ever do a race or maybe do something and you're like, I just want to flex a little bit. Like I'm really proud of this one. I want to kind of say, hey, look at how I did really good and I'm really proud of it.
Thanks. Yeah. I had a race a couple of years ago in Utah that, I came into it being like, I just really want to smash this race. I don't know what it was about that one, but I was like, I'm just going to like literally leave it all out there. And I think I won that one with like a solid, it was at least a 5-minute gap or something like that. And, I flexed a little bit after that one. Sorry about my cough.
No, that's all right. It feels good to kind of be like, you know what? I worked really hard and I'm really proud of it. And I want to put a bumper sticker in my car about this one.
That's weird. Yeah, any win that I take, I guess I feel that way. But this one I did as well, especially because it was out of my element. But I think this one more so sort of everything sort of came together for me, whereas it didn't for other people. And there's been races that I've run that I'm even more proud of, like West Virginia last year. Nicole and I like duked it out neck and neck that whole entire race, and it was a beast, so it was a long race. And there was multiple times in that race where I was just like, oh, I should, just want to back off. Like, I'll just let her take the win. And then I'd be like, no, I'm going to keep fighting for it. And we literally basically fought right up until the finish line. So that was probably like one of the wins in my career that I'm the most proud of. yeah, and I think I flexed a little bit after that one too. So, I mean, the Canadian way, which is very like modest.
Sure. I get it. No, I get it. Do you have other favorite races like that one? Like top 3 races career that you're like, you know what, that was a good race. I'm happy with that race. Happy how I did.
Yeah, West Virginia was funny because like I actually got a stress fracture at some point during that race. I don't know when it was, couldn't tell you, but which sort of ruined the end of my season. And West Virginia is like not one of my favorite courses. So it's funny that I say it was like one of my favorite races of the year, but I think really like what makes racing extra special is the competition. Like on any given day, I can just go run, a hard whatever. But it's those battles that sort of really make it. So there's a couple like Tahoe years for sure that I'm really proud of. The first year that I won it, I was really proud of. And then I think the year before that too, it would have been maybe the first year that I competed at Tahoe, and I was sort of battling the whole race long and ended up finishing second. So there's definitely been a few of them, and you never know when you're going to have a race like that. Like if I had known how West Virginia was going to go down, I would have been way more nervous coming into that race. So you're always glad you don't know.
So you won the race. When you finished the race, your husband, Ryan Atkins, was waiting for you there. He also won his race. It's got to be fun to be both together there on top of the podium.
I know. It's so special. I get to share that with him. It's the coolest thing. But yeah, he always tries to get to the end of my race and sort of cheer me on into the finish. And it's like, it's always just amazing to have him out there. I kind of look for him now. Especially in races that I'm really tired, like that one. If I'm like really feeling beaten down and I'm getting to the last couple miles of the course, and I'm like, it's almost, one more mile till I start seeing Ryan, and then he's out there shouting encouragement at me at the last mile. Like, just always seems to fly by with him there. So yeah, it's nice. Not a lot of people can say that about during your races that their significant other is like out there with them.
It's kind of fun, like when you have family or loved ones out there that are cheering for you and you're watching for it. Like when you see them, you're looking for them and you find them, it kind of gives you a little superpower toward the end.
Totally. And you know what? One of our best friends actually was a camera guy for that race too. And towards the end of the race, I guess he filmed the men's race, but towards the end of the race, he went back out to like film some of ours. And I started seeing him too. And and that definitely gave me an extra push because it was sort of funny, like being out there running with him. I mean, even though he's filming with me with the camera, I'm like not able to talk or anything. It was just really funny because for years, he was actually, so Ryan and I, before we bought our own house, we lived with him and one of our other best friends, and we would all just train together all the time. So it was really cool just like being able to run out there with him again on the race course. I was like, oh, it's just like a training day.
I talked to Ryan, a week and a half ago, and he said that you guys are working on your French up there in Quebec.
Yes. I mean, he is fully bilingual. So he's kind of at a different level than me. He's starting to learn all the funny expressions now, whereas I'm just learning a language. So it's really coming along. Like I can definitely communicate with people now. There's a lot of words that are still missing from my vocabulary. So every day I try and learn something new. But so he's like learning all these expressions. Like, for example, tous les deux means like how we would say both of them, I guess. That's how they say it in French. And the first time I used the expression, I was like all proud of myself. I was like, I'm going to use this expression. And I forgot how it went. So instead of saying tous les deux, I said deux les two. And I like used it in a sentence, and normally Ryan can figure out what the heck it is that I'm trying to say, but everybody was just looking at me like, what the hell is she trying to say? And Ryan looked super confused, and then I explained, and they all laughed really hard. I think part of it is just accepting that like you're gonna screw stuff up sometimes, and like not to be too embarrassed about it. You just sort of like have to laugh along with everybody.
They say the best way to learn a foreign language is immersion. Just like get in there and get in the country and figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
The next race.
Yeah, I mean, everybody here is bilingual, so a lot of the times people just switch to English for me. But it's important to me to learn because their first language is French. And that's primarily what they speak. So, and I just don't want everybody to like accommodate me just because they can speak English. So yeah, it's important to me to learn, but I have to like tell people that I'm practicing and basically make them switch back to French and try and struggle along with me, which usually people are actually really stoked to do.
My family and I went to Europe a few years ago, like 3-4 years ago, and I was just embarrassed because I only speak English, and everyone there spoke English and their home language. They spoke English and Italian, or English and French, and I felt, like the awkward American, like, can I have a sandwich, please? And they, they're generally polite about it, except for in France, but.
That's really funny. I mean. Especially if you're in Paris, apparently they're snobs. Were you in Paris?
Yeah, they don't really like speaking English, I feel like.
Well, apparently, okay, so I've learned from Quebecois people here anyway that it's part of their culture to be kind of snobby about being Parisian. And they consider snobbiness to be like an asset a little bit, if that makes sense. So it's a point of pride, or like when they're communicating with each other, like to be a bit rude is and like tell it like it is really is kind of seen as being an asset, which is interesting because we don't see that in a lot of other cultures. But I'm really happy to hear you say that about English, because I always tell people that I'm like so happy to be learning a second language, because you go places in Europe or other places in the world and people speak like 4 and 5 languages, especially in Europe and Scandinavia.
Yeah,
it's super prevalent, and everybody else just says, well, English is like, the world's primary language, so if that's your first language, like it's not really necessary to speak others. And I'm like, yeah, well, kind of, but yeah.
Sometimes I feel fortunate just to have grown up speaking English, because it's so weird, like the word present, and present they're spelled the same but pronounced differently, 3 different meaning. Like there's a lot of quirks to English that we don't even think about, but that if you were learning it as a second language, it's gotta be hard, right?
Yeah, and I've been I use Google Translate a lot now that I live in Quebec, and it's funny because we also have like apostrophes. Like instead of saying I am, we say I'm, and because now I use Google Translate so much and I have to like type these things out in English sans apostrophe, I've noticed how like when I talk to people in English or write emails, it's changed and it's become like so proper sounding because I spend so much time on Google Translate that I'm like writing out all these like proper words and I am, and
now you're speaking the Queen's English.
Ridiculous. Yeah, exactly.
The next race in the Spartan US Series is in Seattle. The governor of Seattle has said that they may be canceling mass participation events. There's no word yet on if this is going to affect the Seattle race or not. Have you guys heard about that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I was actually talking to Faye Stenning earlier today. Faye's also like one of the top female elites, and so she actually is living in New York City right now, and or Manhattan, I guess. And so apparently it's like a huge thing that she's telling me how they're closing down gyms and like they're closing down people's offices. And it's funny because up here in Canada, like it's, I guess, not as prevalent yet, so people don't seem to be worrying about it that much. But I guess she actually called Spartan to see what they would say, and they gave like a very politically correct answer about how they said that they, there's no plans as of yet. So it's interesting to hear that like Seattle is actually talking about canceling mass participation events. I'm like interested to see how that goes down, and then also like how long are airlines going to be continuing to run flights? like, are they going to start shutting down airports soon? Is one of the things that I was wondering. And I'm afraid to book flights for, especially all these overseas races I have this year. I'm like, well, if they like cancel these races or shut down airports, like, am I going to get my money back?
Yeah. Well, if they, whatever happens in Seattle, what are your plans for the rest of the series? Will you be the rest of the U.S. Championship races, World Championship this year?
Yep. Yeah, all the way in Abu Dhabi.
What do you think about that, Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of exciting. I'm sort of excited to have World Championships somewhere that's not at altitude. And I think just it'll be an unknown for basically everybody who goes. Whereas before it was sort of like, I don't know, we all knew the course or like to a certain extent what to train for, what to expect. And I just think it'll be interesting when nobody knows what to expect. And then also just like new course that'll cater to a different type of athlete instead of the same sort of type of athlete, because it's been on the same course the last like 5 years. So that being said, Tahoe's not an easy course. Like it took me about 3 years to figure out how to actually race that course. So yeah.
Although once you figured it out, you won it twice in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. Once I figured it out, like I really do like that course. That's the first couple of years. I mean, it really beats you up. Like there's the double climb sort of thing. Like I think I was used to going up and down once, and then your legs are totally trashed after that. And it's like, oh, surprise, you have to do it again. So once I figured out how to train for that, I guess, then that paid off.
What are some other big races on your schedule this year, or big events?
I'm actually going to do the Sky Running World Series this year, so that's kind of exciting. I just found out actually that Rhea Coble is going to be at a lot of the same sky races that I'm going to be at, which I'm excited about because Ryan's not coming with me, so I was a little bit apprehensive about like international travel and new to me countries solo, but I won't have to because I'll have been there. What else am I doing this year? I think that's pretty much it. But that'll be exciting if I'll get to travel to Austria and Spain and just all sorts of places that I've never been before.
Hey, Lindsay, can I try out some new questions on you that I've never asked anyone before?
Sure.
Lindsay, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Eat more maple syrup. No. Best piece of it. I think actually, well, in regards to racing, it was probably from my sister, who's a 2-time Olympian for Canada in the sport of cross-country skiing. And she told me, like, way back when I was in high school, like, just race your own race. Don't, focus on your competitors or what anybody else is doing. Like, you're just going out to do the best that you have to give on that day. And I think, that stuck with me like for years and years. It reminds me that even if I'm having a bad race day, then like, my job is just it's not to win or anything. It's just to do the best that I can do on that day.
That's good advice. What is your favorite book or the book you reread the most?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. A lot of classics. Harry Potter is probably the whole series really that I've read the most amount of times. And then in terms of classics, like mostly I read fiction, but I really like Anne of Green Gables, which nobody outside of Canada knows what that is, but it's a Canadian classic.
That's a classic down here. That's a classic down here. I read that when I was a kid. Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, I've talked to so many people in the U.S. about that or other countries, and everybody's like, what's Anne of Green Gables? Everybody knows, like, I don't know, Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, isn't it? I think it's a series too, right? Like Anne of this and Anne of that. Like
Yeah, I guess it is. That's true. In the book that I have, which I've had since I think I was born, it's like all 3 novels in one book.
Okay.
So to me, it's all just one book.
And then who's somebody that inspires you?
Oh, man. How do you pick one person, right? Emma Watson. Emma Watson inspires me.
Emma Watson.
Which coincidentally,
Little
we were just talking about Harry Potter. Yeah, Little Women. She played Hermione in Harry Potter, which I guess is the role that she's most well known for. But I just think she's a huge activist and feminist, and she's well educated. And I just think that it's really cool. You see so many talented actors who kind of are corrupted by their fame, and I think she just strives to be a normal person. She still wanted to get an education, and she just uses her fame to do a lot of good in the world, which I think is really cool.
Lindsay, do you have any sponsors? Anything you'd like to plug?
I have a brand new sponsor, actually, Riverbend CBD, who CBD is a new thing that I've been trying, and I like it. Everybody was raving about it, so I was like, well, I'll try this stuff out, and then so now I'm on the CBD train. So shout out to Riverbend for getting me hooked on CBD. And of course Human, who's they make Beat Elite. That's my long-time sponsor. They're basically family to me now, so just always thank them for their continual support. And we're also, Ryan and I both, when I say we're, that's who I mean, my dear husband, we're working this year with Athletic Brewing Company, which is an alcohol-free beer, which is awesome because I love craft beer, but as an athlete, I probably can't always drink as much beer as I would like to drink. It's not in my best interest, so I'm pretty excited about that one too. Especially after hot summer days when you've done a lot of training and all you want is a beer. Now I can drink it without guilt. So that's super nice. And VJ Sport, who makes the best shoes on the planet.
Lindsay,
that sums it up. And Spartan, of course.
Lindsay, how can people follow you on social media?
Instagram. I'm actually no longer on Facebook, so sorry guys. I just found that I wasn't using it. I wasn't keeping up with it, and people would send me messages, and I would take 2 months to get back to them. So I finally just shut the account down. But you can follow me on Instagram, and I've been a lot better since I got rid of Facebook, and now I get back to people's messages on Instagram the same day, which is really great because it used to be 2 or 3. I'm making improvements in the world.
Well done.
And my Instagram handle is Lindsay Dawn Webster.
Liz, any last thoughts on Spartan Jacksonville or anything else?
No, I'm just excited for the rest of the season. I mean, the season's really early yet. So, yeah, curious to see how it all plays out. And it'll be interesting this year without being so long. So, yeah, put some thought into that, guys. How are you going to stay fit for 11 months?
You got any advice for people?
I think, just make sure, you don't want to burn out, obviously. I think it's not reasonable to be at the top of your fitness game all year long. So, for me, I'm going to have a bit of a mini season when I'm doing my sky races. And then in July and August, I'll sort of shut that down, take some easier months where I just put less pressure on myself. I'm doing less travel, and then ramp it up again for championship season. So I think, for people, my advice would just be to sort of structure your year, not necessarily like that, but give yourself a couple, some downtime, and then a couple months to ramp it back up before Abu Dhabi if you're doing it, so that you're on your game for that. Yeah.
Good advice. Lindsay Webster, thanks much.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Lindsay Webster for appearing in this episode. Well done, Lindsay. Come back anytime. 7-time world champ. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Governor of Washington, sorry I called you the governor of Seattle. I know better. I will talk with you soon. Wash your hands. Go spend time with someone you love.
During these Jeremy times, people, it's nice. The nice people, Good Housekeeping, have come up with an easy-to-make, at-home hand sanitizer using vodka. It sounds a little less DIY and more DUI.
Yeah. Little vodka for the handstand, little vodka for mommy.
Yeah, right. This is it. I had 5 shots of hand sanitizer.
That's so good.